chosen one. This message was not supposed to reach you easily. Something was working against it. Something was interfering with the signal between this word and the place in you that needed to receive it. There were other things pulling at your attention today. Other sounds, other demands, other scrolling that could have swallowed this moment before it arrived. But you opened it. That single act, stopping here, staying, choosing this over everything else, competing for the same space, was already decided before you pressed play. Heaven saw to it that you would find this, my child, because what I am about to say is not casual. It is specific. It is for you, and it has been waiting for the moment you were ready to receive it. If something in your chest shifted just now, if something loosened or settled the moment you heard those first words, do not explain it away. That is not coincidence. That is recognition arriving before your mind has caught up with what your spirit already knows. The body responds to truth before the intellect names it. And what you are feeling in this moment is your spirit acknowledging that you have arrived at something real. Do not minimize it. Do not rationalize it. Sit with it, my beloved, and let it do what it came to do. Most people will scroll past a message about waiting. They will hear the word waiting and they will move on. Because waiting is the thing they are trying to escape, not the thing they are willing to sit down inside of. But you did not scroll past. You are here, and that choice, my child, was not random. That was already decided. I want you to hear me clearly before anything else. Before I tell you what I see. Before I tell you what is happening in the unseen. Before I speak into the silence you've been living inside of. I want you to know this. I have not been absent. I have not looked away. The quiet you have been living in is not the quiet of abandonment. It is the quiet of a builder in the middle of serious work. And serious work does not always announce itself while it is happening. What I am building does not require your constant observation to proceed. It requires your trust. And trust, my beloved, is not the absence of questions. It is the decision to remain even when the questions have no immediate answer. I know what you have been carrying. I know the specific weight of it, not the general weight of waiting, but the particular weight of waiting for this person, for this connection, for this story to finally become what you have known in your spirit it was always meant to become. There is a difference between wondering if something will happen and knowing that it is meant to happen. And you have been living in the second category for longer than you can fully explain. You have tried to talk yourself out of it. You have told yourself that you were imagining it, that you were projecting, that you were reading significance into things that had no significance. And yet here you are, my child, still knowing, still certain in a way that logic alone cannot account for. That certainty is not yours. I gave it to you, beloved, because I needed you to hold on long enough to arrive at this moment. I placed that knowing in you. It was not an accident of emotion. It was not a trick of wishful thinking. What you carry in your spirit about this person, about this connection, about what this is, was planted there by me long before either of you had the vocabulary to name it. Habakkuk 2:3 says this, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." You have been holding a vision, my beloved, a real one, a spoken one. And appointed visions do not expire because the timeline feels long. They arrive because I said they would. I do not speak things into the spirit of a person I am not committed to completing. My child, what I plant, I tend. What I speak, I stand behind. Stay with me here, my child. If this word is reaching the place in you that has been waiting for confirmation, follow this channel so the next word I send can find you just as easily. What I am releasing through this message is not the last thing I will speak over your situation. My beloved, there is more coming. Make sure you are close enough to hear it when it does. I want to tell you something about this person, the one whose name is already forming in your mind as you listen to this, the one whose face is already there when I say this person. I want to tell you something, my child, about what I see when I look at them right now, in this moment, in the season you cannot observe. You see silence. I see reconstruction. You see distance. I see a soul being unmade and remade at the foundation level. The kind of work that cannot happen while someone is performing for an audience. While someone is maintaining a version of themselves that they have begun to understand is insufficient for where I am taking them. The silence you are experiencing is not rejection, my beloved. It is renovation. And renovation requires emptying before it can fill. What you are interpreting as retreat is actually the sound of someone's false walls beginning to lose their hold. This person was not built to be without you. They know this. They do not have words for it yet. And they may not have admitted it even to themselves in a form they can speak aloud. But the knowing is there. It does not leave. It returns at inconvenient moments. It returns when they see something that reminds them of you, and then they push it back, and then it returns again. Other people have been introduced into their life who seemed on the surface like they might provide what they were looking for. And every time, my child, every time something was missing, something fundamental, something they could not manufacture or import or replace, because what they need is not a quality. It is a specific soul. It is you, and the soul knows the difference between what it needs and what it is settling for. It always knows. Psalm 42:7 says, "Deep calleth unto deep at the noise of thy waterspouts." There is a call happening between two souls that I authored, my beloved. And that call does not quiet simply because one of the callers has gone still. The signal does not die because someone stopped answering. It continues, it persists, and somewhere in the depths of this person, the call is still being heard. Even if they are pretending not to hear it, even if fear has convinced them to stay quiet and wait until the sound goes away, it will not go away. I did not design it to go away. What you call longing is spiritual labor. What you call waiting is preparation. These are not poetic reframings of your suffering, my child. They are structural truths about how divine appointments work. Suffering without purpose is one thing, but what you are carrying is not without purpose. Every day of this waiting has been building something in you that you could not have built in the ease of early connection. The endurance you have developed, the discernment you have grown, the ability to hold something precious without crushing it under the weight of your need. These are not small things. These are the qualities that will allow you to hold what I am bringing toward you without breaking it when it arrives. I want you to think about Ruth, my beloved. Strip away the Sunday school familiarity for a moment and think about what she actually walked through. Loss did not just touch her life, it stripped it. It took the person she had built her future around. It took her from everything familiar and left her in a foreign field doing the work that no one else wanted to do. Picking up what others had discarded, surviving on the margins of someone else's abundance. And yet her faithfulness in the field positioned her for a redemption she had not planned and could not have engineered on her own. The story was not ruined by the loss. The loss was the pathway into the story. What looked like the end of everything was actually the opening of the chapter she could not have entered any other way. Your season of loss, of absence, of waiting in a field that does not yet look like the harvest is not the end of your story, my child. It is the necessary passage into it. Think about Naaman. He came to be healed, expecting one kind of encounter. He came expecting spectacle, a dramatic moment, something that matched the weight of his need. And instead, he was told to go and wash in the Jordan 7 times. 7 ordinary, unspectacular acts of obedience in a river he did not even particularly respect. And it was not on the first washing or the second or the third that his flesh was renewed. It was on the seventh. The healing was real the entire time. It was in process the entire time, but it required the full number of surrenders before it was visible. My beloved, this person is being led through their own Jordan. They are washing through layers of pride, of fear, of false identity, of every lie they were told about love and what it costs and whether they are worth the risk. You cannot see those layers from where you are, my child. You can only see that nothing is visibly changing. But something is changing. Something is being stripped and renewed at a level that does not show on the surface until the work is complete. If something in your chest settled when I said that, my child, if something that had been tight has loosened even a fraction, that is not your imagination. That is recognition arriving before your mind has words for it. Type, I felt it, so the part of you that already knows can hear itself say it out loud. When you type it, you are not performing. You are agreeing with what your spirit has already confirmed. Heaven reads that agreement, and it is recorded. While I do this hidden work in them, my beloved, stay close to where I speak. Follow this channel, my child, and let it be one of the ways you return to me when the waiting gets loud. What I am doing in that person right now does not require your interference, your urgency, or your attempts to accelerate it. It requires your trust, and trust needs to be fed. Stay close to where trust is being spoken. Beloved, I want to talk about what I am actually doing in this person while you wait, because you deserve to understand the mechanism, not just be told to trust it. The false attachments first, my beloved. Everyone arrives at a significant connection carrying the residue of every love that preceded it. Every relationship that told them something about who they were and what they were worth and whether love would hold or fail them. This person is carrying those residues. Some of them are thick. Some of them were laid down early in the years before they were old enough to understand what was being written on them. And those early writings, those early verdicts, told them things about love that were not true. They told them that love demands performance. They told them that love has conditions. They told them that getting close means becoming vulnerable to the kind of loss that undoes a person. And so they built walls, not because they wanted to keep you out specifically, my child. They built walls because the alternative felt like too high a cost. What I am doing in this person right now is dismantling those walls from the inside, my beloved, working in the places they cannot reach themselves, addressing the foundations of fear that they have been standing on without realizing it. This is not a small project. This is renovation at the level of the heart. Ezekiel 11:19 says this, "And I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you. And I will take the stony heart out of their flesh and will give them an heart of flesh." That promise is active, my beloved. A stony heart being made flesh is not a comfortable process for the person going through it. Flesh is tender. Flesh is capable of feeling things that stone cannot feel. And the moment a stony heart begins to soften, the first thing it does is feel the full weight of what it has been denying. That is not a pleasant experience, my child. That is a breaking before a building. Do not look at the evidence of breaking and conclude that nothing is going well. The breaking is the sign that the work is happening. David spent years in caves before he held the crown he had been anointed to wear. The anointing was real from the beginning. The appointment was settled from the beginning. But the caves were not incidental. They were not a malfunction in the plan. The caves were where David became someone who could carry the crown without being destroyed by it. Someone who had suffered enough to govern with mercy. Someone who had waited long enough to understand that power given too early would have ruined what power given in the right time would perfect. What you are in right now, my child, this aching season of waiting and not knowing and holding on without visible evidence, is your version of the cave. Not punishment, preparation. You are becoming someone who can carry the sacred thing I am bringing toward you without breaking it or breaking yourself, my beloved. The cave does not last forever. Caves are not permanent residences. They are passages. Philippians 1:6 makes me a specific promise that I do not make lightly, being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. I do not abandon projects, my beloved. I do not start sacred things and then lose interest. I do not author stories and then walk away from the unfinished chapters. What I plant, I water. What I begin, I complete. You are not waiting for a person, my child. You are waiting for a version of yourself strong enough to carry the life I am giving you. And that version is being built right now, in this season, in the specific conditions of this particular waiting. Conditions I designed to produce exactly the qualities you will need for everything that comes after. Isaiah 55:8-9 says this, and I need you to hear it not as a general religious statement, but as a specific word for this moment. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. What this means for you, my child, specifically for you in this situation, is that the route I'm taking you both toward each other is not the route you would have chosen. It is not the route that looks efficient from your vantage point. It does not look like the most direct path. It looks like detours and silence and distance and confusion. But my routes are not chosen for efficiency, my beloved. They are chosen for completion. A route that gets you there quickly but arrives you broken is not a better route than one that takes longer, but arrives you whole and ready and capable of receiving what was prepared for you. This person compares others to you, whether they admit it or not. There is a standard in their spirit, a specific quality of recognition that only activates in your presence, and they have been measuring every encounter against that standard without realizing they are doing it. None of those encounters have measured up. They cannot. Not because of what those other people lack in themselves, but because those people are not the one I appointed. The soul does not lie about this. The soul knows the difference between the genuine article and an imitation, and it does not experience them as equivalent. What they feel when they think about you, my beloved, when your name surfaces in their mind, when something reminds them of you in an unguarded moment, is not something they feel for anyone else. It is not reproducible. It is not transferable. It is specific to this connection, and that specificity is itself the evidence of what I designed it to be. Name who this is about in your spirit, not out loud, not in words to anyone else, just in the quiet of your own knowing. Then type, I know who this is. Heaven already knows too. And when you type it, you are agreeing with what I wrote long before you understood it. Agreement is not small. Agreement with a divine appointment is an act of participation in its completion. I want to tell you about the record that exists in heaven regarding this season you have been walking through. Heaven did not merely observe what you endured in this waiting. Heaven recorded it. Every morning you chose to get up when everything in you wanted to stay down. Every moment you held on to your belief in this connection when every visible piece of evidence was pointing in the opposite direction. Every time someone suggested that you were being foolish, or that you were holding on too long, or that it was time to let go, and you felt in your spirit that it was not yet time, and you chose your spirit over their advice. Every night you lay awake with the weight of not knowing and chose to speak to me anyway, in whatever broken language you could manage, believing that I was listening, even when the silence of heaven felt indistinguishable from absence. Every one of those moments, my child, every single one is in the record. Specifically, permanently. Not as a vague sense that you persevered, but as documented, named, dated evidence of faithfulness that cannot be argued away and cannot be revised. Heaven saw every prayer you still prayed when your mouth had no strength left. Every time you chose to believe when the evidence was thin. Every tear that fell in a room where no one saw. Every morning you got up and kept going anyway. Every quiet act of trust when the silence from heaven felt unbearable and you stayed anyway. The record does not lie. The record does not expire. And the record is being read right now. Psalm 126:5 says, "They that sow in tears shall reap in joy." Every tear that fell in a room where no one saw, every moment of quiet grief that you carried alone because there was no one who could fully understand what you were holding, those tears were not wasted on the ground. They were seed. They are already in the soil of what is coming. And what grows from tears as seed is a harvest of a specific kind. A joy that is not shallow or borrowed or circumstantial, but deep and earned and real in the way that only things paid for with suffering can be real. The record does not lie. The record does not expire. My child, there is someone in your life whose story looks exactly like yours right now. They are in the waiting. They are holding on to something sacred that the people around them cannot fully see. They have not heard what you just heard. Sow a seed today in their name, not as a transaction, not as a formula, but as a declaration that this message was worth carrying further. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. Every seed you sow in faith is heard. Every act of love you extend towards someone else's waiting is recorded alongside your own. Heaven does not miss these things. I want to talk now about the interference, because this connection did not travel an unobstructed path to arrive at where you are today. My beloved, there were people who saw it, who observed something between you and this person, and understood at some level what they were looking at. And what they did with that understanding was not protected. It was not celebrated. It was not stepping back and allowing what was sacred to be sacred. They inserted themselves. They inserted themselves with words, with timing, with proximity engineered to produce a particular outcome, with narratives carefully constructed to make one of you doubt what you knew, to make one of you question whether the recognition you both felt was real or imagined, significant or silly, with distractions designed not to fill a genuine need, but to occupy the space that was meant for something else. They did all of this not because they cared about the well-being of the people involved. My child, they did it because they cared about their own access, their own position, their own fear of what this connection fully realized would cost them. I want to be precise about this because precision matters here. The interference was not neutral. It was not misguided love or clumsy friendship or well-meaning, but poorly executed concern. In some cases, there was genuine malice, a deliberate choice to interfere with something they recognized as significant because its significance threatened them. And in other cases, there was something perhaps more insidious, the quiet accumulation of small acts, small suggestions, small seeds of doubt, planted over time with enough plausible deniability that the person who planted them could claim they were only trying to help. Both categories of interference produced the same result. Both sowed confusion where there should have been clarity. Both slowed down what I am moving toward completion. Let me tell you what happens to interference with divine appointments. Romans 12:19 says, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." That is not a threat from a distant and disinterested God. That is a promise from a Father who watched what was done in the dark and has a record of every action taken against a design he authored. I am not indifferent to what was arranged against you, my beloved. I am not abstractly forgiving in a way that leaves injustice unredressed. I see the full picture. Every manipulation, every lie whispered into the ear of someone who was already uncertain, every door pushed closed on something I had opened, every false narrative constructed to serve someone else's agenda at the cost of something sacred. I see all of it, and I am moving accordingly. Isaiah 54 verse 17 is not a wish, it is a decree. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. The weapon formed against this connection, the interference, the manipulation, the counterfeits dangled to distract, none of it has prospered. It has caused delay, it has caused confusion, it has cost both of you in ways that will take time to fully understand. But it has not prospered in the way its architects intended, because what it was aimed at is something I authored, and weapons formed against my authorship run into a protection that human scheming cannot penetrate. Galatians 6:7 leaves no ambiguity. Be not deceived. God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. The people who sowed interference into this sacred space are already beginning to reap the harvest of what they planted. The counterfeits they constructed are losing their shine. The people they used to distract and occupy and keep this person at a distance have begun to feel the emptiness underneath what seemed initially to be substance. The lies they planted are being uprooted, my child, not by your hand, not by your arguments or your attempts to defend yourself or establish your narrative, but by truth. Truth does not require your advocacy. Truth is patient in a way that lies cannot sustain. Lies require constant maintenance. They require the original deceiver to stay close and keep reinforcing the fiction. Truth simply is. And when the maintenance of a lie becomes exhausting, when the original architect of the deception is no longer available or no longer motivated to keep feeding it, truth fills the vacuum that is left behind. Every door they tried to close is being reopened. Every wall they tried to build between you and this person is losing its structural integrity. Every false narrative they constructed is being quietly contradicted by reality, by the accumulating evidence of what is actually true, by the experience of this person as they live longer inside the world. Those narratives were supposed to create and discover that the world they were promised is not what they were sold. You do not need to seek revenge, my beloved. You do not need to expose them or argue against them or construct a counter-narrative. Heaven is executing its own warrant. Heaven is not slow because it is weak. It is precise because it is thorough. And thoroughness sometimes looks like slowness from the outside. Proverbs 18 verse 17 says, "The first one to plead his cause seems right until his neighbor comes and examines him." The first narrative, the one constructed by those who interfered, seemed right when it was the only narrative present. But examination is coming. Reality is the neighbor who comes and examines, and reality has already begun arriving. What I joined cannot be unjoined by human scheming. My decree over this connection stands, not because you fought for it, though your faithfulness matters, but because I spoke it before either of you existed, and my word does not return void. Isaiah 40:26 asks, "Who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number? He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might." The same God who calls every star by name called this connection into existence by name. You think interference can reach that? You think human scheming operates at the level of the one who numbers the stars? The people who interfered made their choices in the belief that their schemes could outlast my designs. They were wrong, and they are in the process of discovering exactly how wrong they were. What God joined cannot be unjoined. What God decreed cannot be canceled. What God is moving toward completion will arrive at completion, because completion is what I do. You have stayed with me through the waiting, my beloved. Now stay through the rest of what I am releasing here. Follow this channel so that when I send the next word for your season, you will be the first to receive it. What comes next in this message is specific for those who remained. There is something I want to say about the ache, not about how to stop feeling it, my child, but about what it actually is. The ache you carry for this connection is not a sign of weakness or desperation or unhealthy attachment. It is, in the language of Psalm 42:7, deep calling unto deep. It is the sound of a soul recognizing what it was designed for and wanting what it was built to have. You would not ache this way for something random. The body does not manufacture a particular brand of longing for things that do not matter. The intensity of what you feel is proportionate to the significance of what this is. And the significance of what this is was established before you were born. 1 Thessalonians 5:24 says, "Faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it." I called both of you. I called you toward each other before the two of you had any idea that the other existed. And I am faithful to what I call. Faithfulness is not just a character quality I possess in the abstract. It is a binding commitment to the specific things I set in motion. I set this in motion. I am bound to complete what I started. The waiting does not alter that. The interference does not alter that. The confusion, the distance, the silence, none of it alters that. I am faithful. I will do it. I want to talk to you about what is actually happening in this person's interior in this season, because you are watching them from the outside, and the outside does not tell the full story. From the outside, what you can see is performance. You can see the face they have chosen to present to the world. You can see the decisions they have made that appear to move them away from you, or that appear to indicate a disinterest that you sense in your spirit is not the full truth. But my beloved, I am working in the interior. I am working in the quiet hours when no one is watching and the performance is down, and the truth of what they actually feel is sitting very close to the surface. I am working in the moments when they encounter something that reminds them of you, and the carefully constructed distance they have been maintaining suddenly feels like exactly what it is: the hard work of denying something real. I am working in the moments when the counterfeit they have been distracted with reveals its shallowness in a way that cannot be rationalized away. James 1:4 says, "But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing." I am not asking you for unlimited patience without purpose, my child. I am showing you that the patience being asked of you right now has a specific function. It is producing something in you, a completeness, a wholeness, a wanting nothing in the sense of arriving at the thing fully equipped rather than partially formed. The patience is not the destination. The patience is the forge, and what comes out of the forge is not the same material that went in. It is stronger, it is more itself. Soul recognition, my beloved, is not subtle. It does not whisper. It does not arrive as a maybe or a perhaps or a whim. This could be something. When two souls I have appointed encounter each other, there is a summons, an unmistakable knowing that precedes and survives every attempt to rationalize it away. You know that you have experienced this. You know the difference between something you talked yourself into and something that arrived in you fully formed before you had time to decide whether to allow it. What you carry about this person arrived that way, and it has survived every attempt to talk yourself out of it. Every argument you made to yourself about timing or circumstance or the gap between what is and what you are hoping for, it survived all of it, because it is not a product of your preference. It is a product of my design, and I designed it to outlast doubt. If your shoulders felt heavier just now, my child, if something that had been sitting loosely suddenly had weight again, that is the feeling of a truth landing in your body before your mind has fully processed it. Type, "I was faithful through this," not as a boast, as a witness statement. Heaven records faithful endurance. When you type it, you are signing your name next to the record that already has your faithfulness documented. You are agreeing with what is already written. That agreement has weight. 2 Corinthians 12, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. The moments in this season when you felt most weak, most without resource, most unable to sustain your own belief, those moments were not the moments of my absence. They were the moments of my most precise work. Strength made perfect in weakness does not mean that the weakness was pleasant or that the exhaustion was without cost. It means that in the very places where you ran out of your own supply, I was operating at a level of sufficiency that your strength would have obscured. You could not carry yourself through those moments. I carried you through them. And what was built in those carried moments will sustain you in every season that follows. Jeremiah 29:11 is spoken specifically over you in this season, my beloved. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. An expected end, not a hoped-for end, not a possible end, a planned end. The thoughts I think toward you in this season are not confused or uncertain or still determining what they intend for your life. They are thoughts of peace. They are thoughts of completion. They are thoughts that have already seen where this is going and have determined that where this is going is good. You are not waiting for a person, my child. You are waiting for a version of yourself strong enough to carry the life I am giving you. That version, the one being built right now in this exact season, is nearly finished. Not because the waiting will last much longer, but because what needed to be built in you is approaching its completion. And when it is complete, the arrival of what you have been waiting for will not break you. It will meet you at the level of what I have built in you. And that meeting will be different than any meeting you could have had earlier, before the forge did its work, before the cave shaped you, before the patience had its perfect work. The difference will be the difference between receiving a sacred thing and being capable of holding it. You are nearly capable. That is not a diminishment, that is a word of proximity. You are nearly there. Type "this belongs to me," not as a demand, not as a grasping, as recognition. When you speak ownership over what I ordained, my child, you are not claiming something that was not given. You are receiving what was always yours. The appointment was made before you were born. The connection was written before either of you had names. When you type it, you are placing your hand on what was already placed in your hands. That is not presumption. That is faith. Someone you know is standing exactly where you stood before this message found you. Their connection is under siege. They are doubting what they know in their spirit. They cannot see what I see from where they are standing. Sow a seed today in their name, not as a transaction, not as a formula, but as a declaration that this message was worth carrying further. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. Every seed you sow in faith is heard. Every act of love you extend towards someone else's waiting is recorded alongside your own. Heaven does not miss these things. I want to speak now about what reunion with this person will not look like, my beloved, so that you are not caught off guard when it comes differently than you imagined. Destiny does not return timidly. It does not arrive apologetically or with excessive qualifications, or wrapped in the kind of hesitation that makes you wonder if it is real when it returns. It returns with clarity. It returns having processed the distance and the fear and the false alternatives that were supposed to replace it but could not. It returns having been to every counterfeit and found them wanting. It returns having been stripped of the pride that used to make vulnerability feel like too high a cost. Destiny returns like a storm, my child, not because it is violent, but because it is unmistakable. You will not have to wonder whether what is happening is real. You will know. You will know before they say a word, because the recognition that has always been there will not be in question when it returns. It will be settled. Isaiah 43:18-19 speaks to this. Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth, shall ye not know it? The new thing that is springing forth is not a repackaging of the former things. It is not a return to the version of this connection that existed before the interference, before the confusion, before the distance. It is a new thing, something that has been built during this season, shaped by everything both of you have walked through. And what emerges from what both of you have endured is not lesser for having been through the forge. It is more fully itself, more capable of sustaining what is being asked of it. The new thing is better than the old thing, not because the old thing was bad, but because what I am bringing forward now is built on what both of you have become, rather than what you were before the season reshaped you. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." All things, my child, not the pleasant things, not the convenient things, not the things that made obvious sense while they were happening. All things, including the silence, including the distance, including the interference, including the moments of doubt that you are not entirely proud of now, including the nights when you were not sure you could hold on, including the counterfeit seasons when you tried to convince yourself that something else would be sufficient. All of it is working together. All of it is being integrated into a story whose outcome was determined before its beginning and whose ending is good. Lamentations 3:25 says, "The Lord is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeketh him." The soul that seeks, my beloved, not the soul that performs certainty at every moment, not the soul that never doubted. The soul that seeks, the one that kept turning back toward me, even when the turning back was imperfect, even when the prayer was broken, even when the faith was thin and the questions were loud, that soul, that seeking soul, is the one this promise is for, and that is you. That is exactly who you have been in this season, a seeker. Not a perfect one, a real one. 1 Peter 5:10 adds to this. "But the God of all grace, who hath called us unto his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after that ye have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you." After that you have suffered a while. There is a while. The while is not forever. The while is a defined season, and it has a completion point. Established, strengthened, settled. Those are the outcomes of the while. Not just restored to where you were before the suffering began, but strengthened beyond it. Settled in ways that the suffering made possible in easy seasons never could. What comes after the while is a settled person, a strengthened person, a person who has been established by something that only the forge can produce. I want to say something about the comparisons this person makes. My child, not to flatter you, not to reinforce an unhealthy fixation, but because it is simply what is happening. Every person they encounter is being measured against a standard that they did not choose and cannot set aside. That standard is you, not a version of you that they have idealized or imagined, but the specific quality of recognition they experience in your presence and have not been able to replicate anywhere else. They compare the conversation to you. They compare the ease to you. They compare the specific quality of being known, of being seen without needing to manage the presentation, to the experience of what it felt like to be with you. And everything comes up short. Not because they are obsessive, not because they are unhealthy, but because the soul knows the difference between what it needs and what it is being offered, and it cannot experience them as equivalent even when it wants to. Psalm 27:14 says, "Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. The instruction is not to wait passively, my beloved. It is not to go still and become someone who is merely enduring. The instruction is to wait with courage, active, present, engaged with the waiting, rather than numbed by it. The courage the waiting requires is not the courage of action. It is the courage of non-action, of staying when everything in you wants to move, of holding ground when you cannot see what the ground is worth, of continuing to believe when belief is the most expensive thing you can offer. That courage is being seen. It is being recorded. It is being honored. If your breath slowed just now, if there is something quiet in you that was not quiet before, that is not incidental. That is the feeling of something being loosened, something you have been carrying that was not yours to carry. Type, I release what was never mine to carry. Let the part of you still gripping the outcome hear itself. Let go. I am not asking you to release the belief in this connection, my child. I am asking you to release the weight of needing to hold it in place by the force of your own will. What I am guarding does not need your grip to survive. It needs your trust. The trust is lighter than the grip. Give me the weight. Because you have stayed this far, my child, what I am releasing now is specifically for those who held on when it would have been easier to let go. Not everyone received what you have just received. You have held on through the weight of this message, through the heaviness of what it has asked you to sit inside of, through the places where it became uncomfortably real. That endurance is not insignificant. That endurance is itself a form of declaration, a declaration that you are willing to receive the full weight of what I am saying, rather than the comfortable portion of it. And what I am about to release now is for the ones who are willing to receive the full weight. What comes next in this message is specific for those who stayed. Those who found it too heavy and closed it will not have this word. Follow this channel, my beloved, so that when I send the next message for your season, you will be positioned to receive it before the noise of everything else competes for the same space. What I am about to release is for those who held on. I want to talk about what divine connection actually costs, my child. I want to talk about why I do not deliver sacred things easily. Why the paths toward what I have appointed are often longer and harder, and more stripping than the paths toward counterfeits that were never ordained. Counterfeits are easy to access. They are designed to be easy. Their accessibility is part of their nature. What I author for a person at the level of their deepest calling is not designed to be easy to access, because what is easily accessed is not fully received. The sacred things require a journey, because the journey builds the capacity to hold what is waiting at its end. You cannot hold a 60-pound truth in hands that have only ever held 10-pound ones. The capacity has to be built. The hands have to be strengthened. And the process of strengthening is what this season has been doing in you. Mark 10:9 says, What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. That is not just a statement about marriage ceremonies. It is a statement about the permanence of divine appointment. What I joined, the joining, is at a level that human scheming cannot reach. The interference that has operated against this connection operated at the human level. It operated with human tools, with human lies and human timing and human schemes. And human tools, even skillfully applied, do not reach the level at which I work. The joining I perform between two souls I appointed does not exist at the level where manipulation operates. It exists at a level underneath that, a level that was established before either of you was born, a level that interference never had access to. What they tried to separate was already separated from their reach before they made their attempt. Isaiah 60:22 says, A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time. In his time. Not in the time that the interference assigned, not in the time that fear assigned, not in the time that human calculation assigned. In my time, and my time does not run according to your calendar or your urgency or the exhaustion of your patience. My time runs according to the completion of what I am building, and when what I am building reaches its completion point, the hastening happens. The arrival is not gradual at that point. It is sudden. It is decisive. It is unmistakable. You will not have to wonder if it is happening. You will know. Deuteronomy 31, verse 8 says this, my beloved, and I need it to settle into the places in you that are still afraid. And the Lord, He it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. He will not fail you. That is not a polite assurance. That is a declaration about my character, about my record, about the nature of the commitment I have made to everything I have authored. I do not start things and leave them unfinished. I do not call people to sacred appointments and then rescind the call. I go before you. I am already in the place you are moving toward. What waits for you at the completion of this season is not uncertain, because I am already there, and I do not wait at uncertain ends. I am faithful to my own designs. I want to address something specific that has been happening in this person, my child. There are moments when they almost said something, almost moved, almost reached out, almost crossed the distance they have been maintaining, and said what has been sitting in them without adequate expression. And in each of those almost moments, something stopped them. Fear, pride, the voice of the interference still operating in their memory, even when the people who planted it are no longer actively present. The almost moments are not evidence of indifference, beloved. They are evidence of someone fighting against themselves, someone in the process of losing a war against their own knowing, someone whose walls are actively cracking, even though the crack is not yet visible from the outside. Every almost moment is a wall losing structural integrity. They are accumulating. They are building towards something. And what they are building toward is the moment when the wall does not hold, when the almost becomes a finally, when what has been true in their spirit for longer than they are comfortable admitting finds its way into words or action, or both. What you call longing is spiritual labor. This is not a metaphor. This is a functional description of what is happening in the spiritual dimension of this connection. Every moment you have spent holding this in your spirit, choosing to believe, choosing to continue, is not passive. It is active participation in a divine process. Your faithfulness is not irrelevant to the outcome. It is not a background condition while the real action happens elsewhere. It is a load-bearing element. Your willingness to endure is part of the structure being built. I have not asked you to endure this because I wanted you to suffer. I have asked you to endure it because your endurance is irreplaceable in what is being built. There is no version of the completed story that arrives without the faithfulness you are currently in the process of delivering. I go before you, my beloved. That means what is waiting at the end of this waiting was prepared before you arrived at the beginning of it. I was already there. I had already arranged what needed to be arranged. I had already worked in the places that needed working before your faith had a chance to reach them. You are not moving toward uncertainty. You are moving toward a prepared place. Prepared by the one who already knows exactly what you need and what this person needs and what this connection requires in order to fulfill what it was appointed to fulfill. Type, the plan against me failed. Not with anger, with certainty. Because it did. Whatever was arranged against this connection ran directly into a design I wrote before either of you were born. You are not saying this to declare victory over people. You are declaring agreement with a verdict I already rendered. The interference ran into something it could not penetrate. The schemes ran out of reach before they reached the level at which I work. Type it as someone who knows it is already the truth. Because it is. In the days ahead, my child, doubt will visit this place in you again. It will not announce itself as doubt. It will arrive as practical questions, as reasonable concerns, as the voice of someone who sounds like they are being realistic and grounded and careful on your behalf. When that voice comes, do not receive it as a sign that what you heard today was wrong. Receive it as confirmation that what I released through this message was real, and that real things attract opposition in a way that unrealities do not. The doubt that comes after a word like this is not evidence against the word. It is evidence of how much the word cost to reach you. Do not let the opposition that follows the message make you revise the message. Let the love in which I spoke it be the final word. You heard something real today, and when doubt comes, come back to this. Come back to what you heard here. Come back to me. I want to speak a word now over the reunion itself, my beloved. Over the actual moment of arrival, not just the waiting before it. Because I want to plant something in you about what to do when it comes, how to receive it, how to stand inside of it without being overwhelmed by the weight of all the relief and recognition arriving at once. When this person comes back into full clarity of who you are to each other, they will come, having been stripped of the things that used to keep them at a distance. They will come having been through their own version of the Jordan, having washed through the layers that used to protect them from the vulnerability of full commitment. They will not come as the version of themselves that pulled back, that went quiet, that maintained the distance. They will come as the version of themselves I have been building in the silence. And that version will deserve to be received without the accumulated anger of the waiting, without the need to extract an accounting for every moment of silence, without the demand that they perform adequate regret before they are allowed in. My child, receive the renovation, receive the new version. Do not make them pay for the cost of their own transformation. The transformation was part of the plan. Psalm 126:5 says, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy." The reaping comes, the joy comes, and when it comes, my beloved, receive it with both hands. Let the relief of it be real. Let the joy of what finally arriving feels like be full. You are not required to be measured about your joy or careful about how much of it you allow yourself. You are required to receive it honestly. And honestly means completely. Let what I give you in the moment of completion be as completely received as what you have endured in the season of preparation. You earned both the endurance and the joy. Do not shortchange yourself on either one. Type, "Heaven has ruled, and I agree," because agreement with my verdict is not passive. It is the most powerful thing you can do in this moment. When you agree with my judgment, you are not merely accepting it. You are standing inside it. You are locating yourself within the reality that I have declared. And from inside that reality, everything that happens next looks different. Doubt looks different. Silence looks different. The gap between where things are and where I have declared they are going looks different. Agreement does not change the facts. It changes where you stand in relation to the facts. Stand inside what I have declared. It is solid. It will hold you. I want to say something about what comes after the reunion. My child, not just the first moment of recognition, not just the joy of arrival, but the life that follows. What I am preparing both of you for is not a dramatic moment and then a return to what things were before. What I am preparing you for is a life, a built thing, a sustained connection that runs deeper than the circumstances it started in, that does not rise and fall with the emotional weather of any given season, that has roots deep enough to hold through whatever comes after arrival. I am building you for that. I am building them for that. And the depth of the roots being laid right now in both of you is proportionate to the life you are being made to sustain. This is not a small thing I'm bringing you to. This is a life, and lives require preparation that temporary highs do not. I want to tell you something about Habakkuk 2:3 one more time before I bring this to its close. The vision is yet for an appointed time. Appointed, not estimated, not hoped for, appointed. There is an appointment on the calendar of heaven with your name on it, with this person's name on it, with this connection's name on it, and appointments keep, my beloved. Appointments are not canceled by the interference of those who were not invited. Appointments are not rescheduled by the impatience of those who were appointed to show up. They keep. The appointed time comes, and when it comes with the full weight of every preparation that preceded it. What you have built in this season, what this person has been building in their season, what heaven has been arranging at the level that you cannot see, all of it converges at the appointed time. You are moving toward that time. You are closer to it than you have ever been. And what is written at the appointed time for you is good. It is specific. It is real. And it is coming, because you did not close this message when it became heavy, my child, because you stayed when the weight of what I was saying was real enough that walking away would have been understandable. Something specific is being released into this moment that was held in reserve only for those who remained. You did not earn this by being perfect. You did not earn this by performing certainty at every moment of this season. You earned this by endurance. You stayed through the doubt. You stayed through the moments when the silence of heaven felt like absence. You stayed through the weight of this message. And because you stayed, you are standing in the specific place where what was sealed is being opened. Because you did not skip this message, the record shows you were here. Heaven has noted your presence in this moment. Your willingness to sit inside the fullness of what was spoken. Not just the comfortable portions, not just the encouraging sections, but the full weight of the truth about this connection and what it costs and what it requires and what it has been building toward. The record shows you were here, and the record does not lie, and the record does not expire. If warmth moved through you just now, my beloved, if something settled in you that had been unsettled for a very long time, do not explain it away. That is not incidental. That is something being placed into your hands. Type, I receive what heaven prepared. Say it like someone who has already opened the door. Not like someone still standing outside asking whether it is real. You have been faithful. You have stayed. You have endured. The door is open. Walk through it with the words you type right now. Heaven is reading them. They are not casual. They are not just comments in a feed. They are your agreement with what I have declared. Receive what was prepared. If a name is on your heart right now, the name of the person this message has been about from the beginning, the name that has been in your mind since the first moment I began to speak, sow a seed for that person today. Not because you are required to, not because it will function as a formula that accelerates what I have already set in motion, but because you believe. Because the act of sowing a seed in the name of someone you love in the season of waiting is a declaration that you have received this word and you are willing to stand inside it with your hands as well as your heart. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. Every act of faith you offer in this season is building something you cannot yet see. Heaven is recording it. Every seed sown in love, in the name of someone on your heart, is a stone laid in the foundation of what is coming. It will not be wasted. Heaven does not waste faithful acts. Heaven is recording yours. I want to close with a blessing, my child. A specific one. Not a general one, because you did not come this far for a general word. I bless the knowing in you that has survived every attempt to rationalize it away. I bless the faithfulness that kept you here when leaving would have been easier. I bless the part of you that held on to the sacred thing, even when you could not fully explain to yourself or anyone else why you were still holding on. I speak peace into the places in you that have been without peace for longer than you want to admit. I speak clarity into the places where confusion has been living. The places where the noise of doubt and the noise of other people's opinions and the noise of your own fear have been louder than my voice. I am louder than all of it, my beloved. I am louder, and I am speaking now. And what I am speaking is this: I have not forgotten you. I have not forgotten this. I have not looked away for a single moment of this season. I have been here. I have been working. I have been building in the seen and in the unseen, in what you can observe and in what you cannot. And what I have been building is good. I bless this person, the one whose name has been in your spirit through every moment of this message. I speak to them now, even as I speak to you. I am working in them, my child. I am working in the places they cannot reach themselves. I am dismantling what was built on fear and laying new foundations where the old ones cannot hold. What they are becoming in this season is not less. It is more capable of what this connection requires, more honest about what they actually need, more willing to receive what they have been afraid to fully want. I am doing this work not because they ask me to, not because they deserve it more than someone else, but because I authored this appointment, and I am faithful to my own authorship. I speak Mark 10:9 over this connection as a final word. What I have joined will not be put asunder. Not by what was arranged against it, not by the distance, not by the silence, not by the interference of those who tried to insert themselves where they were not invited, not by the fear that still whispers sometimes in the in-between moments, not by any of it. Because what I joined was joined at a level that is beyond the reach of all of it. It is settled, it is written, it is coming, and it is good. Receive that, my child. Let it settle into the deepest place in you and stay there. Let it be the thing you return to when the doubt comes to visit. Let it be the floor you stand on when everything else feels unsteady. It is solid. It will hold you. I built it to hold. Type "it's already done," because in the place where I speak, it is. The appointment has not changed. The design has not been canceled. The person, the timing, the alignment are already written. You are not declaring something into existence. You are agreeing with something that already exists. The existence of it preceded your awareness of it. It was written before you had a name. It was settled before you had a question. You are not waiting for something uncertain. You are waiting for something that is already complete in the place where completion begins. Type it like someone who knows this is true, because you do know. You have known for longer than you are comfortable admitting. Type it and let the part of you that has always known hear itself finally say it out loud. I love you, my child. I love you, my beloved. I have been with you in every moment of this season. I will be with you in every moment of what comes after. The waiting is not forever. The arrival is coming, and I will be there when it does, watching what I authored finally unfold in the way I always knew it would. It is already done. Amen.